Friends, just imagine this, a woman locked in solitary confinement for over a year. No visitors, no contact with any man. And then one day, it's discovered she's pregnant. Is it magic, or did something happen inside the prison that no one was supposed to know? In today's video, we'll uncover how a female inmate got pregnant under full-time surveillance. What did the prison officers do, and why did the truth leave everyone completely speechless? Don't skip a single second because the final twist is something you'll never see coming. If you enjoy stories like this, hit the like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping content. Now, let's begin. It was just the beginning of 2023. The Women's Correctional Facility in Starlight Valley, known as Crescent Moon Penitentiary, had barely settled into the new year when something extraordinary happened. Something that would later shake the entire criminal justice system to its core. At exactly 2:46 a.m. in the highest security isolation unit, Block G, an inmate collapsed without warning. The alarms didn't go off because nothing appeared unusual until Officer Zane Quill, monitoring the night surveillance from the control room, saw her fall. The inmate, Zara Lumina, age 34, was housed in cell 17, the most secure and secluded cell in the entire facility, used for high-risk inmates under complete isolation, thick concrete walls, 3 layers of metal doors, no windows, and a 24/7 surveillance system. No one got in, no one got out. Medical personnel rushed in within 3 minutes. Zara was unconscious, her lips slightly bloodied from a fall, her right hand unconsciously resting on her stomach. The prison's attending physician, Dr. Elias Vorn, began emergency care immediately, suspecting internal trauma. But as he ran the portable ultrasound scanner over her abdomen, his face froze. There it was, a fetal heartbeat, strong, alive, 20 weeks into pregnancy. The silence in the infirmary turned heavier than steel. Zara Lumina had been in complete solitary confinement for over a year. No visitors, no contact, no mail, no staff, no possibility of human error, or so everyone believed. Dr. Vorn filed a critical incident report within the hour. At 6 a.m., Warden Cashin Holt convened an emergency meeting with his top officers. He held the file in his hand, flipping through the pages slowly. The room was deathly quiet. "She's been alone for over a year," he said, his voice low but commanding. No visitor logs. No male staff in her section. Dual entry locks, both digital and mechanical. Surveillance running non-stop. So tell me, how the hell did this woman get pregnant? The room stayed silent. No one dared to guess. No one dared to suggest what this might mean. Because if Zara's pregnancy was real, and it clearly was, then either the security system was flawed beyond comprehension or something darker, unspoken, had taken place. A special internal investigation committee was immediately formed. They reviewed 60 days of surveillance footage, every camera angle, every meal time, every hallway patrol. They interviewed every guard, technician, medical staffer, and cleaner who had ever come within range of cell 17. They found nothing. No glitch, no lapse, no breach. That afternoon, Zara regained consciousness. When Dr. Vorn gently informed her of the pregnancy, she didn't blink. She simply said, "I know. I just want to give birth to my baby." "Were you forced?" he asked. Zara shook her head. "No, do you know who the father is?" She said nothing. "Did you do this to yourself?" "I was alone," she whispered. Her face showed no fear, no shame, no confusion, just calm. Meanwhile, whispers flooded the prison corridors. Among the staff, sipping cold coffee and chewing on silent suspicion, a different question emerged: could someone from within have broken protocol, or did she find a way no one could imagine? Then came an unexpected turn. Officer Zane Quill, the same one who witnessed her collapse, began pressing the matter. He was relatively new, transferred 6 months ago. Known for his sharp instincts and military-style discipline, something about the situation felt wrong to him, too clean, too impossible. He requested direct access to Zara for questioning. At first, the warden declined. Male staff weren't allowed direct contact with inmates in the isolation unit, but the mounting pressure, media inquiries, and growing confusion forced his hand. With female officers present, Quill was allowed to question her under strict surveillance. Inside the dim interview room, Zara sat handcuffed, her eyes steady and distant. Quill leaned in, his voice calm but firm. "Zara, we've torn this prison apart trying to find answers. If you don't help us, they're going to think the worst. That someone hurt you. That we failed you." "No one hurt me," she said. "Then how?" "I told you, I was alone." "That's not possible." "Maybe it is." Quill stared at her, unnerved. This wasn't a woman trying to manipulate the system. There were no tears, no bargaining, no excuses, just that haunting stillness. Later that day, while installing a new surveillance camera in Zara's cell, one of the guards noticed something on the wall, scratched faintly into the concrete beneath a peeling layer of paint. "I don't want to live. I just want my baby to live." And in the corner, folded beneath a precisely stacked towel, they found an old cloth, stitched in red thread, barely visible. 2 words, "Hope Glow." That night, no one in the administrative block slept, not even Officer Quill. The mystery had only just begun. The news of a pregnant inmate in total isolation sent shock waves beyond the prison walls. The story leaked first to a local journalist, then to national outlets. Headlines blazed across America: "Woman in solitary confined for a year found 5 months pregnant, no male contact confirmed." It wasn't long before conspiracy theories spiraled, some absurd, some terrifyingly believable. But inside Crescent Moon Penitentiary, things were far more complicated than anyone outside could ever imagine. Warden Holt had no choice but to escalate the investigation to federal oversight. The Department of Justice dispatched an elite internal affairs unit to determine how a maximum security system, revered for its impenetrability, had apparently failed. But the closer they looked, the stranger things became. The team pored through biometric records, food deliveries, sanitation logs, digital key card entries, and heat sensor data. Everything was airtight. No unauthorized access, no tampered footage, no male personnel in the vicinity of cell 17 in over a year. Yet Zara Lumina was undeniably pregnant. Meanwhile, Officer Zane Quill couldn't let it go. Something in Zara's eyes had unsettled him deeply, not fear, not defiance, but purpose. It was as if she knew something that no one else could possibly comprehend. He returned to her cell, this time with a female officer present again, under recorded supervision. She was seated on her concrete bed, back straight, hands folded in her lap, her growing belly pressing gently against her beige prison uniform. "I know you think I'm here to accuse you," he began. "But I'm not. I just want to know the truth. Not for the system, for your child." Zara glanced up, her expression unreadable. Some truths can't be told in words, especially when no one would believe them. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said softly, "if I told you I created life without a man, would you believe me?" Zane stared, momentarily stunned. "Are you saying it was some kind of miracle?" Zara didn't respond. She simply turned away and placed her hand over her stomach. Back in the administrative wing, the investigation team was growing frustrated. They had reviewed every possible scenario except one: human error. But there were no errors to find. That's when someone noticed something strange in the July shift logs. A name: Cale Vortex, a male inmate, age 26, serving a 30-month sentence for aggravated assault. He had been granted limited access to the facility's technical maintenance division due to his exceptional academic and technical background. Cale had once been a top medical student before his life fell apart after a traumatic family incident. According to logs, Cale was assigned to clean and repair wiring in the old ventilation corridor connecting the women's isolation wing to the administrative block. The timeline matched: July, around the time Zara would have conceived. He was immediately summoned. Cale walked in with the calm demeanor of someone expecting this moment. Clean-shaven, underweight, and pale, his prison uniform clung to his slight frame. He looked tired, deeply tired, but not afraid. Seated across from the interrogation panel, he kept his eyes low. "Did you ever speak to inmate Zara Lumina?" asked the lead investigator. "No, sir." "Did you ever have physical contact with her?" "No." "Did you see her once?" Cale admitted slowly, from the corridor, through the vent slats. "Just her silhouette." "Did you help her become pregnant?" Silence. Cale's lips parted. There was no physical contact. "But did you help her?" Still staring down at the table, he whispered, "Not in the way you're thinking." The room went still. Cale was returned to his cell, and the team immediately conducted a full forensic sweep of the ventilation shaft between the women's isolation wing and the tech corridor. There, they found something astonishing, something that had escaped all previous inspections. Tucked behind a thin insulation panel was a nylon string, nearly 2 meters long. Tied at one end was a tiny wooden spool. It led deeper into the shaft. With cautious hands, they pulled gently, and out slid a sealed plastic bag. Inside it, a used medical syringe and trace amounts of biological fluid. It was enough. 3 days later, DNA testing confirmed it. The biological father of Zara's unborn child was Cale Vortex. The unthinkable had become undeniable. When Cale was brought back in for final questioning, he no longer avoided eye contact. He looked directly at the panel and said quietly, "She sent me a note one night through the vent. It was just a scrap of paper. It said, if I could have one wish before I die, it would be to become a mother." He paused, then continued. "I didn't know why it shook me. I didn't plan anything. I didn't even answer right away. But a few nights later, I sent a bag. I left a sample. I didn't think she'd actually try, but she did." A stunned silence filled the room. There were no threats, no coercion, no deals, just a silent agreement. Two people behind two walls, both broken, both dying in their own ways. Zara had never asked for a lawyer, never asked for a retrial, never even told anyone what she had done because, as she had said again and again, "I don't want to live. I just want my baby to live." When the warden received the final report, he held the thick file in his hands and walked alone into the empty prison chapel. He sat in silence for nearly an hour. And when he returned to his office, he called his deputy, Mira Vale. "I want you to read something," he said, handing her a folded towel recovered from Zara's cell. Mira opened it carefully. Inside, stitched in red thread, were 2 words, "Hope Glow." She read them over and over. Her throat tightened because years ago, Mira herself had lost a child in childbirth. That night, she walked alone to Zara's cell. She didn't ask questions. She didn't speak of rules. She simply said, "Do you want to name her?" Zara, eyes closed, smiled faintly. "Yes," she whispered. "If it's a girl, her name will be Leora, because she's the only light I've ever known." And so the silence of Block G was broken. For the first time, not by alarms, not by screams, but by the gentle name of a child who wasn't even born yet. A child who had already changed everything. May 3, 2023. The early morning sky above Starlight Valley was cloaked in thick gray clouds. It hadn't rained in weeks, but that day, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath, a heavy downpour blanketed Crescent Moon Penitentiary. Thunder cracked like warnings from above. Power lines sparked. And in Cell 17, Zara Lumina was about to do what no one thought possible, bring life into a place designed to contain death. At 4:02 a.m., Officer Quill heard a faint metallic knock over the intercom, one that barely registered over the sound of the rain. Zara hadn't called for help. She simply pressed her palm against the iron bars of her cell, sweat pouring down her face, her lips clenched in pain. She was in labor. Emergency protocols were activated. The prison's medical team, led again by Dr. Elias Vorn, scrambled as the storm knocked out power, leaving them to work with flickering backup lights. Ambulance transport was impossible. The access roads were flooded, and State Patrol had already warned all nearby routes were closed. The birth would have to happen inside the prison. Inside a cold, sterile infirmary, lit by unreliable emergency bulbs, Zara was wheeled onto a stainless steel table. Her legs trembled uncontrollably. She gritted her teeth but didn't scream. Not once. She gripped the bed rails with such force her knuckles turned white. There were no comforting hands, no partner, no mother's presence, no midwife songs, only a stoic doctor, an elderly nurse, and the constant sound of rain pelting the roof like the beat of a war drum. Dr. Vorn issued orders quickly. "We have no time. She's crowning. Get the warmer. Get blankets. I need gloves now." The birth was raw, primal, unassisted by the luxury of modern hospital machinery. Zara gasped, then pushed, her back arched. She closed her eyes and whispered something only the nurse could hear, "Please, just let her breathe." One final push, and then it happened. A sharp cry pierced through the dim, heavy silence of the prison. A newborn's wail, thin, high-pitched, beautiful. A girl. The infirmary staff stood frozen. Dr. Vorn blinked, tears threatening to form as he cradled the blood-slick, trembling infant in his hands. 2.7 kilograms, he murmured, wrapping the baby in clean towels. "She's perfect." He placed her on Zara's chest. Zara, exhausted, broken, and soaked in sweat, opened her eyes just wide enough to see the tiny pink face. The baby's mouth opened and closed, searching. Her little fingers curled around Zara's thumb like a question. A smile cracked across Zara's face. A real smile. The first since she entered Crescent Moon. Outside, the rain continued, but inside, a miracle had happened. The official birth report was filed that same afternoon. By law, Zara's sentence, previously life without parole, was now suspended under emergency child protection clauses in the Starlight Valley Penal Code. No mother with an infant under 3 years of age could be subject to full-term solitary confinement without medical review. A special parole board was summoned. Zara, however, did not request release. She requested only one thing: "Let me raise her here as long as I can." Warden Holt was torn. Regulations forbade long-term child-rearing inside federal penitentiaries. But exceptions had been made, rare ones, for situations deemed extreme or humane. And then something unexpected happened. Mira Vale, the deputy warden who once prided herself on strictness and distance, took a bold step. She stood before the parole board, holding Zara's handwritten note, a note recovered from her cell, stitched into a towel. A plea written not to the system, but to the heart. "I know she broke the law," Mira said. "But not every crime is committed in darkness. Sometimes it's committed in desperation, fueled by nothing but hope. That child is not a symbol of rebellion. She is the result of silent pain and quiet courage." The room was silent. And so it was decided. Zara would be allowed to keep her baby in a specially cleared wing of the prison infirmary, under 24/7 surveillance, with enhanced sanitation and safety protocols. It wasn't freedom, but it was mercy. She named the child Leora, Arabic for light. Every morning, Zara would sit beside the one small window in the medical wing, where sunlight filtered through thick bars for exactly 15 minutes a day. There, she rocked Leora in her arms and whispered stories of oceans and skies, of books and stars, of a life she once almost had. Leora grew fast. She giggled at shadows. She welcomed to your new AI assistant, powered by XAI, cried when Zara put her down. She chewed on pencils and tugged at her mother's collar during feeding. Every milestone, her first smile, her first word, her first step, was logged in a small red notebook Zara kept hidden beneath her mattress. She wrote daily, "Dear Leora, today you smiled at a butterfly through the window. It didn't land, but you waved anyway." And then, as all mothers know, time began to run out. Leora was nearing her 3rd birthday. By law, she could not remain inside a correctional facility beyond that age. The system was firm: children must be released into the custody of a qualified guardian or social services. No exceptions. Zara knew this. She had known it from the moment Leora had first opened her eyes. So she began planning the hardest goodbye of her life. She contacted the Department of Child Services through the warden, requesting that Leora be placed in a non-institutional home. No group housing, no shelters, a real home, a real mother, if possible. That's when Mira stepped forward again. In a quiet meeting, she said, "I know someone. An old friend, a woman named Auntie Solara. She's not rich, but she has raised abandoned children for decades without a single government check. She doesn't advertise, she doesn't ask, she just loves." And so, on a cloudy spring morning, Leora was handed over to Auntie Solara, wrapped in a green blanket, clutching a stuffed animal Zara had sewn from prison bed sheets. Zara didn't cry. She couldn't. She just kissed Leora's forehead, whispered, "Remember your name," and turned away before the gates closed. In the envelope she handed to the social worker, there were only two things: a single photo of Zara holding Leora in the infirmary, and a notebook, 80 pages filled with love. The first line read, "To Leora, the only thing I ever did right." Years passed. Leora grew up in Auntie Solara's garden-filled house, surrounded by birds, chalk drawings, and bedtime stories. No one spoke of her mother, not because of shame, but because the time hadn't come. But one day, when she was old enough to ask, "Where's my mama?" Auntie Solara handed her the red notebook. Leora read every word. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply walked outside, sat beneath the almond tree, and began to draw. She drew a prison, then a window, then a hand holding a baby, and she wrote one sentence in thick, colorful letters: "Mama, I'm your light too." Inside Crescent Moon, Zara still remained. No parole, no early release. She never asked. But once a month, Mira still brought her paper and pencils. And in every letter Zara wrote, she began the same way: "To Leora, my daughter, my morning sun." No longer just a prisoner, no longer just a mother, but a woman who gave birth to light in the darkest place on earth. This was the unbelievable story of a female prisoner's secret pregnancy. One child, one hope, one life that became a light in the midst of darkness. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And for more true and shocking stories, make sure to subscribe and stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. See you again in another story.